ultimately we have to find the answers to this pain within ourselves. And in terms of like how to process grief, first thing is to follow this process of accepting pain, because whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, it's still pain.
Welcome back to Mulligan Brothers. Today's video, as always, was sponsored by Huel. I'm drinking Huel Black Edition, which has 26 vitamins and minerals, 35 grams of protein and slow release carbs to make sure that I can stay satiated and proteined up whilst I make these documentaries. If you want to find out more about these, go to the link in the description. I'll talk about them a little bit later on in the video. I think in life, like you say, there is this inevitable suffering that comes with being alive. When something happens like grief or loss or something really difficult, and you've not prepared for it, you've not understood this sort of concept of embracing pain, how would one go through that? And what is, I hate to have this terminology because I don't know how to explain it. Like I told you, I'd lost my son just before starting Mulligan Brothers, so 8 years ago now, and I have no words for explaining this apart from this horrible way of saying it, is that there was some silver lining to it. Like there was, coming through the other side, completely transformed who I was. But I struggle to say that on camera because I think some people will go, that's just such a terrible thing to say. Yeah, I mean, as you know, through the people you've experienced and some of maybe the suffering you've seen, is there an explanation for suffering and going through suffering that life deals with you? Not chosen suffering, but this unchosen suffering we sort of have to deal with.
Well, first of all, I'll just tell you another story. Many years ago, I got invited to sit on a panel of in the Northern Territory of Australia. Let me see if I can just find the better words for this. So many years ago, I was invited to attend this conference of Year 10 students, which I think is about 16, yeah, from all different schools in the Northern Territory in Australia. And I was on a panel with a famous cricket player, a mental health professional, and another lady who was kind of coordinating everything. And all of these teenagers, they could text questions to the coordinator who would then field them to the panel. And one of the questions was that one of these teenagers had lost someone that they loved. They died. And she was struggling with the grief. Yeah, it was really hurting her. And she was asking for help processing this grief. And I'm sitting here, then I had the cricketer next to me, and then there was the counsellor on the end. And the counsellor says, what you need to do is you need to create a new network. So if this was the person that you were relying on, what you need to do now is transfer that to someone else, another family member, another friend, and you've got to start to really rely on them. Meanwhile, the cricketer is leaned across like this to me and said, I've got nothing. And so fortunately, they went straight to me next. And I was listening to the counsellor, and I was thinking, well, this person is in pain because they've lost someone that they're relying on for their emotional support. And if they transfer that dependency onto someone else, they're not really solving the problem. They're really just kicking the can down the road, because if anything happens to the person that they're now relying on for their emotional support, they're going to be back in the same position of vulnerability again, because they're dependent. They continue dependent. And so it seems to me that when dealing with this unchosen suffering and grief that comes in life, you still have to ultimately find, I'm not saying that we shouldn't rely on loved ones for emotional support, but ultimately we have to find the answers to this pain within ourselves. And we need to start to regard ourselves as being the emotional support for others, as opposed to becoming too dependent upon others. And in terms of like how to process grief in a way that makes us a stronger person, I always say first thing is to follow this process of accepting pain, because whether it's physical pain or emotional pain, it's still pain. And sometimes you don't want to look at it, but you have to. Like, you have to just stop and be in pain.
If you lead a busy life like me and millions of other people around the world, you might be struggling to get your nutrition in. That's where this stuff comes in, absolutely clutch. If health was easy, everyone would be doing it. But Huel make it that easy. You scoop, you shake, and you go, and you get 26 vitamins and minerals. And every single ingredient inside this and all of Huel's other products has been expertly tested by their team to make sure you're getting exactly what you need. And if I'm really in a pinch for time, I'll grab their ready to drink, which has 35 grams of protein, 26 vitamins and minerals, and tastes delicious. Don't just take my word for it though. People like Idris Elba, Diver CEO Stephen Bartlett, and Hardest Geezer, who ran the entire length of Africa, use this as part of their daily routine. So if you want to find out more, go to the link down below. You can get exclusive offers, like if you sign up to their subscription service, you get 10% off all future orders. And if it's your first time ordering, you get a free shaker and t-shirt. It's also now available in major retailers in the UK and the US. What are you waiting for? Go get it.
And as you start to develop this ability to have a relationship with your own pain and suffering, you can then start to consider all the people in the world who have the same pain. So like with this person, this girl, I said to her, like, right now, millions of people in this world are losing their loved ones. If you can open your heart to them, knowing that you know what they're going through, that change in perspective is not only going to bring you peace, just the change in perspective. Because when we're experiencing grief or pain, everything is focused here, like all the spotlights are on us. But when you start to think there are millions of people going through this, the intensity of that focus is going out, it's changed. And so instead of feeling like almost like a victim of the circumstances, you start to see that we're in an existence where people go through pain, and we can think, I know their pain because I've had it. And what happens is it starts to turn into compassion. Like, I know what they're going through, and in your mind's eye, in your imagination, you can see their grief. And I think sometimes it will make you cry, you know, like you can have tears running down your cheeks, but deep in your heart, there's this peace, because that compassion is beautiful. Like, it's a connection with your fellow human, it's with other beings, you know, and it's what makes us, really, it's what makes us special, is that compassionate, loving nature. And when you connect to it, it's, again, going back to finding direction and purpose. You're sort of connecting with the meaning of your life, because you're realizing who you really are as a person. And that can be so cathartic, so healing, so beautiful, and so humbling. And in fact, in the last 20 years as a Buddhist teacher, I've met many people who have lost people. And the most tragic of these are the people whose children have taken their own lives. And I've seen this. I've seen it too often, actually. It's a little bit breaks my heart to think about it. Like, when these kids go through this depression and they take their own life, they don't realize the pain that they're going to cause their parents or brothers and sisters. And I met a lady who found her daughter. Her daughter had killed herself, hung herself, and I met the mother who found her, and she was coming to classes to try to get through this. And I could see the devastation in her. And then one day we were talking, and I just had to say, you know, you're never going to be the person you were before this happened. But it doesn't mean you won't become happy. But you're going to become a much deeper person, because you have to connect. You have to go through this practice, and you have to find that beauty within you through connecting with everyone else who's going through pain. And so, yes, you're going to find peace, you're going to be happy, but you'll never be that person again. Now, from one point of view, that's scary. Another point of view, maybe it's the meaning of her life, you know. There's many stories of people who go through trauma, whatever that trauma is, but then they use that trauma to help others. And then they become happy, they found the meaning of their life, but through their compassion, because they're connecting to something very beautiful inside. It's only when you die that you know whether you've lived a good life. The most definite thing, no matter who you are, what your background is, what you believe, what you don't believe, the most definite thing that's going to happen is death.